Hello. I wanted to share with you the story of Thomasine Thomas Hall. Um, the story I wrote in the text above, the story has some kind of back and forth. It's a court case, and you aren't so worried about the back and forth of the court case. What you want to pay attention to and think about is two things: how we can use this case to understand just how static gender was colonial uh, in the colonial period. There it is completely black and white. There's no gray area. And it's particularly even more like evident how static it is when you compare it to like what we looked at with Two-Spirit people when we talked about indigenous communities. So that's the first thing, is how we can use the court case to think about, again, just like definitions of gender in colonial America. The second thing is, again, in colonial America, we don't see women with lots of positions of power. And so if we can find any way women are exercising power or having a voice, we kind of want to like grab onto that and be like, okay, there's something there. So we can do both of those things with this court case. So it's not really clear what brings Hall to court in the 1620s in Virginia. But there's some suggestion that perhaps Hall was presenting as male, but doing needlework. And again, people in the community would have been like, how could they do this? Because if they are a male, they wouldn't know how to do needlework. So this is telling us that gender is very much defined by what you do and by what you wear. So Hall's brought to court. The women are ordered to search Hall's body. So at this point, Hall must have been presenting as female, because women would not have searched the body of someone who identified as male. The women searched Hall's body, and the women determined that Hall was a man. So then the men searched Hall's body, and the men determined Hall to be a woman. The court sides with the men's decision. This gets the women all in a tumult, and there's another search of Hall's body. Ultimately, I think there are, off the top of my head, like 5 times Hall was searched. And these are, can be pretty invasive searches. At one point, the court asks Hall, how does Hall identify? And Hall identifies as, quote, both man and woman. Once the case reaches the highest case in the land, the decision is that Hall will wear both they'll essentially accept Hall's self-definition. Hall will wear the head covering of a woman, the apron of a woman, but the top and pants of a man. And so on the one hand, it looks like, oh, wow, they've accepted Hall's self-definition, but really what they've done is ostracize Hall, because no one else is going to look like this. And again, it's an indication to us of just how strict gender is defined, right? So much so that they're even like in that strictness, breaking down how someone appears. And again, by how they look and by what they do. Another thing we were looking, though, for is the role of women. And one thing that we see in that Hall case is that there's this back and forth in terms of the definition and decision of the court, whether Hall is going to be determined to be male or female. And it goes back and forth. And when the court seemed to disregard the decision of the women, there was another, they raised kind of a big fuss, and then there's another search of Hall's body. And that to us is an example of how women are kind of using their voice in the courts. They aren't serving in juries. They aren't lawyers. They definitely aren't judges. But in this role, as like the searchers of Hall's body and using their voice to say, this isn't what we said, a whole other search was conducted. So we can see, much sadly to the chagrin of Hall, but we can see how women are using their voice in a place where they don't really have much of a voice. Okay, so again, we're looking at how static gender is in the Hall case. It's identified by your roles and your clothes. And we see that in direct opposition to what we saw with Indigenous communities. And then second, we can see women don't have like an official role in the court system. They certainly don't have official jobs. Not even really going to be serving on juries until the 1970s. But they still find a way to have some influence. Okay, if you have any questions, be sure and send me an email, put something in that class discussion board that stays open throughout the semester. I'm happy to help. I hope you're doing well. Take care. Bye.